on this Thursday night.
It is unacceptable that we continue to uncover cybercrime committed by China against America and other nations.
U.S. officials accuse China of spying on at least 12 countries, including Canada. How does that complicate an already tense diplomatic standoff?
We walked by and saw these huge lines and we're like, oh man, we are very lucky not to be them.
Travel plans ruined for tens of thousands as drones wreak havoc at London's Gatwick Airport. What are the rules in Canada, and could it happen here?
We really are quite blind when it comes to medical devices.
And after a CBC News investigation, Health Canada takes a new look at implanted medical devices. But is there a deeper problem they're still not tackling? This is The National.
And we're going to start tonight with a developing story on the south coast of British Columbia, where a powerful windstorm has caused widespread damage. This was the scene a short time ago at the White Rock Pier, about an hour's drive south of Vancouver. That helicopter rescued a man stranded on the dock after it was ripped apart by crushing waves. Although a storm had been in the forecast, its deadly impact surprised a lot of people. Many were forced from their homes, and hundreds of thousands are without power. Renee Filipponi has the latest.
Strong winds led to battering waves. So intense, boats moored to that pier in White Rock smashed violently against it. Some so hard it busted the pier in two. That person ended up trapped, essentially floating in the ocean, and as you saw, had to be rescued by helicopter. He was taken to hospital. For many, it was a terrifying afternoon. Trees toppled onto homes, including John Walsh's. The damage is still being assessed. In the meantime, he's been forced out.
We have good neighbors. Yeah. So we'll have to bunker down with them for a little while until we can find out what's happening. And hopefully we still have a house to come back to.
So far, one death has been blamed on the storm after a man was hit by a falling tree. Stanley Park and other parks in the region were shut down over concerns that people would be hurt. Just off Vancouver Island, a houseboat detached from its mooring and drifted across the bay. 4 people were in the home and had to be rescued. The gusts took down power lines, putting hundreds of thousands of people in the dark.
So we did track the storm closely. We did put additional crews on standby last night in anticipation of the outages today. So we have brought in additional resources as well, as we do anticipate the storm could get worse later on today. So we are ramping up efforts all around.
The winds were in the forecast, but the force of today's storm took people by surprise. Ferries were canceled for most of the day, leaving people stranded.
Winds obviously pick up and ferries can't control what's going on, so just gotta go with the flow again. Not much we can do about it.
Winds peaked at about 100 kilometers an hour, and while officials say the worst is probably over, the destruction will take days to clean up. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Vancouver.
So much for the most wonderful time of the year for travelers at London's Gatwick Airport. It has been a miserable couple of days for tens of thousands of would-be passengers, stranded because at least 2 drones have brought everything to a halt. More than 700 flights grounded. They're still buzzing around, and while authorities decide whether to shoot them down, stuck in the middle, the passengers are left to wait and to fume. Briar Stewart spoke to some of the Canadians among them.
At Gatwick, thousands queued up in lines that seemed to never move. Their holiday plans disrupted, all because of drones.
I don't know, I think it's crazy that someone would just decide to fly it at the airport, and I don't know. And that it's been going on for so long now, so it's obviously on purpose.
These Canadians were destined for Toronto, but like everyone else, they're now left waiting. 110,000 people were scheduled to fly in and out of Gatwick today, and now many of them are here, stranded in line, waiting with their luggage, trying to get a sense of when a flight may take off from here again. It's not clear how many drones have ground the UK's second busiest airport to a halt, but police say they believe it's deliberate. 2 were reportedly spotted over the runway at 9 last night. Since then, there has been multiple sightings. Despite a police helicopter searching all day, they haven't been able to find the person or people flying them, which is why they've called in help.
We'll be deploying the armed forces to give them the help that they need to be able to deal with the situation of the drones.
The drones have been described as substantial and industrial. Experts say they're much more sophisticated than something you might pick up at your local store.
This is either a larger drone with a larger battery life or has been custom built with a purpose to deliberately disrupt an airport operator.
If that's the case, it's certainly worked. This Canadian couple had their flight diverted from Toronto to Birmingham, so they feel lucky they were at least able to take a bus to London.
We walked by and saw these huge lines and we're like, oh man, we are very lucky not to be them.
And officials are warning people that the airport will be closed for the foreseeable future, including tomorrow, which is expected to be the busiest travel day of the year. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
NAVCAN, which is in charge of air traffic control in this country, says it can't recall an airport being shut down because of a drone, but could it happen? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. In the United Kingdom, drones aren't supposed to get within a kilometer of an airport, but in Canada, the no-fly zone is wider, 5.6 kilometers for recreational users. They can only get up to 90 meters versus 120 in the UK. Those are the rules, but as this case shows, rules can be broken. And joining us now is Eric Sachuk, an instructor at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. And Eric, I know you have expertise with drones, so tell us, what can be done at airports to keep drones away?
So the first step in keeping drones away is detection, a combination of hardware and software that allows you to detect drones, both the vehicle and the controller, up to about 15 to 20 kilometers away. That would be step number one.
All right, and then step number two is to try to wrest control of those drones away from the person who's using them.
That's right. There's a jamming gun that can be used. It uses a high-powered radio frequency, directional, pointed at the drone to either make it hover, return to home, or even take control of it and land it.
It's a pretty high-tech, fearsome-looking device, and what can you tell us about its use in Canada?
So it has been used at the G7 summit. It is manufactured and distributed by a local company here called Indra Robotics at a cost of about $70,000.
Now, you know, when you're on a plane, you're told to make sure your cell phone is turned off. You don't want to disrupt the plane's communications. What about using a gun like this, a jamming device like this, at an airport? What does that do to planes that are flying around?
Yeah, generally speaking, when we have a situation like this, as we're witnessing right now, there are no planes flying. It's just the drone and the gun. So the chances of this disrupting any sort of communication system on an aircraft is pretty low.
And one last quick question. When you heard this story from London, what was your reaction?
Well, we need to tighten up the drone rules, and we need to get these kinds of systems into place.
All right. Eric Sachuk, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The stakes just went up amid escalating tensions between the world's two economic superpowers. The United States called out China's government today, accusing it of cyber hacking on a global scale. The alleged criminals, the U.S. says, are part of a Chinese scheme to steal secrets from governments and companies. And as Ellen Morrow shows us, Washington, backed by its allies, had a very clear message for Beijing.
It is unacceptable that we continue to uncover cybercrime committed by China against America and other nations.
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced the charges at a press conference this morning. 2 Chinese nationals linked to a government espionage team, accused of targeting aviation, telecommunications, and pharmaceutical companies, even a NASA space center, allegedly trying to get their hands on sensitive government information.
No country poses a broader, more severe, long-term threat to our nation's economy and cyber infrastructure than China. China's goal, simply put, is to replace the U.S. as the world's leading superpower, and they're using illegal methods to get there.
China didn't just target the U.S. Today's indictments say more than a dozen other countries, including Canada, were victims of the hacking.
The Chinese aren't playing by the rules, or at least by Western rules, and they say, oh, you owe us because of colonialism, and we deserve your intellectual property. Their excuses are pretty funny when you talk to them.
China's activities are being condemned globally. In a statement, British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt called the campaign one of the most significant and widespread cyber intrusions against the UK and allies uncovered to date. But will the criticism amount to anything? Probably not, says this analyst.
I think to change their position still requires engagement, dialogue. Sometimes it involves coercion or punitive measures for China's wrongdoings. But to only have punitive measures without some sort of engagement and dialogue is not going to solve the problem either.
But there is some dialogue. Even as the U.S. presses today's charges, it's also talking with China, pressing for a trade deal. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Now, those two Chinese hackers may be in China, and if so, they'd be beyond the reach of U.S. officials. But as Ellen mentioned, Canadians have an interest in this case too. And Ottawa was quick to condemn Chinese espionage, but it was also very careful to make clear it wasn't doing so out of revenge.
The situation that we're dealing with today in terms of cybersecurity was first detected going back to 2016. And we have been taking the appropriate steps with the private sector ever since then to make sure that Canadian systems and Canadian companies are properly protected. So that situation began long before the events of the last couple of weeks that have affected two Canadians in one set of facts and another Canadian in a different set of facts that are being detained in China.
And you can see there, Goodale being careful even about how he talks about those three Canadians in all. It's become a very complex set of events, and with the latest on that, here's Katie Simpson.
Friends say Sarah McIver is outgoing, fun, loves to travel and to teach. But the Alberta woman's passions are on hold as Beijing officially confirms she's under arrest. Detained on administrative punishment for working illegally, they say. McIver is the third Canadian arrested by China in less than 2 weeks.
The government of Canada is working by all possible means to make sure that they are safe.
The reason for McIver's arrest is not uncommon. Global Affairs says roughly 200 Canadians are detained in China right now for a variety of infractions, anything from invalid paperwork to minor violations of the law. McIver's case is also different from that of former diplomat Michael Kovrig and entrepreneur Michael Spavor, who are facing more serious accusations of breaching China's national security. Canadian Chinese language broadcaster Fairchild TV quoted sources as saying Kovrig and Spavor were picked up after Chinese security officials generated a list with dozens of names of possible Canadian targets, all in retaliation for the detention of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou.
It is plausible based on the knowledge of, what we know about how China works.
This professor says China is known for using tit-for-tat retaliatory tactics. In 2010, Beijing arrested 4 Japanese citizens for allegedly spying after Tokyo arrested a Chinese captain in a territorial fishing dispute. In both cases, China has been quick to lash out.
It's like poking the dragon straight in the heart.
A close ally is publicly coming to Canada's defense. The European Union's embassy in Beijing says it fully supports the Canadian government. It's also trying to help with Michael Kovrig's case after it was confirmed he has dual Canadian and Hungarian citizenship. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
Let's turn now to a new call for public input on cannabis in this country. Canadians will have 60 days to weigh in on the rules around 3 kinds of cannabis products in particular. Edibles, so brownies, cookies and such, extracts like hashish and wax, and topicals. So that includes cannabis-infused creams and lotions. The government wants feedback on its proposals for things like how strong these products can be, how they're packaged and labeled, and how to enforce quality control. But of those 3 ways to use cannabis, edibles may be the one that's got everyone's attention, simply because of how popular they are. Getting consensus on the best way to make them safe, though, that's a whole other problem. Here's Catherine Cullen.
If edibles only call to mind the humble pot brownie, it's time to start thinking bigger.
Regulations introduced today by the federal government open the door to all kinds of pot-infused food and drinks. Public health experts say there are advantages to products that don't need to be smoked, but
you have to balance those benefits against the potential risk of not understanding the longer time frame for THC to take its effect in your body if you consume it by eating.
in fact, when some U.S. states legalized, they saw a rash of hospitalizations when users accidentally consumed way too much pot. To avoid that, the plan is to require products be sold with plain, child-proof packaging, that they be clearly marked as cannabis, and no package can contain more than 10 milligrams of THC. That's the chemical in pot associated with feeling high.
That's okay for an experienced consumer, but certainly for a novice user, you should be looking at something less than 5 milligrams in the beginning, and slowly you can increase your consumption.
Some pot producers, though, argue many of the limits are too restrictive.
That means that every 10 milligram cookie has to have its own package, which is a tremendous amount of waste.
His company, Hexo, has partnered with Molson Coors to make a cannabis-infused, non-alcoholic drink. He says limits on adding caffeine, for instance, will create challenges.
You can't have any extra added sugar. So, it'll be interesting to see how we make these drinks interesting.
Another restriction on edibles, products can't have a shape that's appealing to kids. So gummy bears are a no-no, though gummy squares would be fine. Canadians have 60 days to weigh in on the proposed regulations. Legal pot edibles are supposed to go on sale by mid-October. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Here are some of the other stories we're watching tonight. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis has handed in his resignation. He spelled out the reason in a letter to Donald Trump, saying the president should have a Secretary of Defense who agreed with him on the major issues. The announcement comes just a day after President Donald Trump overruled Mattis's advice against pulling troops out of Syria. He'll leave by the end of February.
I've made my position very clear. Any measure that funds the government must include border security.
The U.S. president is not budging on his promise to build a border wall, even if it means a possible government shutdown, which would happen if legislators don't agree on a funding bill before midnight Friday. He says he'll only sign a bill that includes $5 billion for the wall. Tonight, the House of Representatives passed one, but the Senate has already rejected the idea.
And still ahead tonight on The National, At Issue tackles the price of oil and the price of national unity. Rosie will be here with Andrew, Paul, and Shachi.
And a little later, we'll follow up with a community in Northern Ontario the moment it finally connects to the electrical grid.
Our diesel generator is now shut down, and hopefully we'll never have to go back or resort to using old diesel generators.
All is calm. All is bright.
We have worked over the past 3 years with provincial governments across this country to move forward on a regime that controls and regulates the sale of marijuana.
Pot may be legal come October 17th, but where you live in Canada is going to determine exactly what that means for you. Across the country, the minimum age for buying and consuming marijuana is either 18 or 19, depending on where you live. That could change, though, in Quebec. Its new CAQ government wants to raise the minimum age from 18 to 21. Only 2 governments are completely hands-off sales, Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Private stores will sell marijuana there. In 5 jurisdictions, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Yukon, the provincial government will control all sales. The rest are a mix, usually with private store sales and government-run online sales. A heads up for people living in BC and Ontario, only 1 store will be open in Kamloops, BC on legalization day. And in Ontario, users can only order product online until stores open in April. Now, most provinces say you can light up wherever cigarette smoking is permitted, but certain public spaces where you'd expect to find a lot of kids, like parks and playgrounds, they're prohibited. 4 jurisdictions have chosen to crack down, though, on public use, restricting it to private property and private residences. But if you don't own your home, you may not have any options. For example, in an apartment building, a landlord can forbid a tenant from smoking up. And if you live in a condo, well, condo boards can also pass policies forbidding smoking up too. The federal government set a limit of 4 plants per household. Most provinces and territories followed that advice, but 2 provinces, Quebec and Manitoba, defied the order and are banning homegrown marijuana.
Health Canada is promising to improve the safety of medical devices used by thousands of Canadians. It follows an investigation by CBC News and an international consortium of journalists. The collective reporting found that tens of thousands of devices, such as pacemakers, artificial hips, they were approved for use worldwide, but sometimes relying on old, possibly outdated information.
People assume that there must be a lot of evidence backing a device if it is approved by Health Canada, and I think most people would be surprised to find out how limited the evidence often is.
In Canada, these devices are said to have played a role in about 1,400 deaths over the past decade and more than 14,000 injuries. Vic Adopio was the lead reporter for CBC News on the implant files, and he has a look at what the government intends to do about the problems.
It was a surgery Nikki Carruthers says she'd hoped would make her feel better about herself. But the complications from her breast implants began almost immediately. Blackouts, hypertension, chest pains, ulcers, and exhaustion.
I feel like a 90-year-old person, and I'm not even 30. I feel like my life's over.
Carruthers' story is one of the many we heard about a medical device system that works for most patients, but fails them when something with their device goes wrong. Health Canada is announcing new measures, among them a special advisory panel on medical devices, which will hear from female patients.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, because then you have people that have actually experienced what these things do to people and how their lives are affected.
Other new changes by Health Canada include demanding that manufacturers retest products when safety issues are flagged in other countries, making clinical and adverse event data publicly available. Independent researchers will now be able to conduct their own testing on devices without approval by companies, and hospitals will have to provide details about implanted devices to patients so they know exactly what's inside them.
We have to see what's going on.
This pathologist says he's encouraged, but wanted Canada to follow other countries by starting a national registry of implanted devices.
So we're kind of moving to a system which is more comprehensive, widespread. Why don't we do it from scratch, from the foundation properly with the registry?
Health Canada says there are no changes to the way devices are recalled. It's still the manufacturer who's responsible for informing patients and hospitals. But that system failed to notify patients we spoke to. This surgeon says without changing the recall process, those failures will likely continue.
More of patients finding out that they may have a problem on the evening news as opposed to through a routine notification of recall or problems as we might get with romaine lettuce, meat scares with our vehicles.
And so, Vic, I mean, you touched on this in your story, but tell me, what are other countries doing that perhaps Canada is not about keeping tabs on these medical devices?
Well, tracking medical devices right from the point with the manufacturer to when they get put inside patients. Dr. Mitchell, who we just heard from there in Halifax, he compares a lot of hospitals in Canada to a giant Walmart store, but with no cash registers. Patients come in, then they leave with devices in them. Then at the end of the day, workers run around with clipboards and try to figure out who got what. Now, that's a problem, say, when a knee implant gets recalled. A lot of these device records exist only on paper, but both the US and the EU are implementing standardized barcode systems for every type of implantable device, so they can be tracked better. Canada is actually involved in developing those standards, but Health Canada says it's technically complicated to implement here, so there's no timeline for that happening. In the meantime, Health Canada is encouraging patients to get as much information as they can about that device that's going inside them.
Okay, important work you've been doing on this file. Thanks so much, Vic.
You're welcome.
Up next on The National, Rosie will be here for At Issue. This week, it's all about oil, pipelines, and the regional divide. Andrew, Paul, and Sachi are here with their take on the state of Canadian unity.
First, though, you think you know skiing? Well, take a look at this.
I could not figure out how you were doing that. I had to track you down because all I could see was a man cruising across the lake on a pair of skis, and I could not see how he was doing it.
There were, as there had been on this and past shuttle missions, delays this morning. This time it was Florida's freezing snap. There were icicles on the launch gantry, and there was a 2-hour delay until NASA officials were satisfied there was no danger. The family of Christopher McAuliffe, the first teacher, the first private citizen to be chosen for a space flight, watched the launch.
And liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Now controlling. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading downrange.
For a whole minute, the launch went as planned.
Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
Mission Control gave the command for the last burst of power to kick Challenger into space.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up. One minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
All that was left were the contrails of the bits and pieces of Challenger.
Obviously a major malfunction.
For 45 minutes, rescue craft couldn't get near the debris because pieces of Challenger were still falling from the sky. On the ground, shock. McAuliffe's parents, Edward and Grace Corrigan. It quickly became clear that no one had survived.
I regret that I have to report that based on very preliminary searches of the ocean where the Challenger impacted this morning, these searches have not revealed any evidence that the crew of Challenger survived.
NASA rejected suggestions that the mission had been rushed to avoid the embarrassment of further delays.
There was absolutely no pressure to get this particular launch off. We have always maintain that flight safety is our top priority consideration in the program, and we look at the status and readiness of the systems based on that. We thoroughly reviewed the activities over the weekend and yesterday, and continually reviewed the status of Challenger right up until launch this morning. All of the people involved in this program, to my knowledge, felt that Challenger was quite ready to go. And I made the decision, along with the recommendation from the team supporting me, that we launch.
Over the years, we've learned to take venturing into space almost for granted. The very choice of Krista McAuliffe symbolized that. She was the first ordinary folks to be chosen to go into space. If she could go, why not the rest of us? Today we found out that it isn't that easy. Today we learned the real cost of trying to conquer space.
We are continuing to watch the impact of that powerful storm that pounded southwestern British Columbia today. A man caught on this shattered pier, which was damaged by the high winds and waves, had to be rescued by helicopter. He was taken to hospital, and one death has been attributed to the storm. It also forced ferries from the mainland to Vancouver Island to be canceled for most of the days, falling trees down power lines. And that's left hundreds of thousands of people without electricity. But this evening, the winds have died down considerably.
Are we disappointed? Yes, there's no question.
That was a reaction from BC's government earlier today as British Columbians said no to changing the province's voting system. In a referendum on electoral reform, more than 60% of voters chose to keep the current first-past-the-post system. This is the third time people in BC have rejected proportional representation.
We've got to protect the integrity of the system because we have to protect the people who are using this product.
Manitoba has suspended the sales of all products from Winnipeg-based licensed pot producer Bonafide. Sure. This after Health Canada recalled 2 of its strains over contamination concerns. The Premier, Brian Pallister, blasting the federal agency for not notifying the province of the recall earlier.
Alberta's energy sector is not just the historic backbone of our economy, but a key part of our country's future.
We didn't ask for the opportunity to go further into debt as a means of addressing this problem. What we asked for was for them to remove the handcuffs.
The message sent back to Ottawa loud and clear: we don't need handouts, we just want to get back to work.
That message, those messages, came after the federal government offered up $1.6 billion in aid for the oil and gas sector earlier this week. But that money doesn't really deal with the long-term problem, and Albertans still seem frustrated. So was this the right response from Ottawa? And are these ongoing tensions sort of pulling at the fabric of Canadian unity? The At Issue Gang is here to tackle all of that. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto tonight. Paul Wells also in Toronto this week, and Shachi Kurl is in Vancouver. Okay, Andrew, let me start with you. Let's just start with the fundamental part, and that was the government's decision to do something about an issue that has been bubbling away in a way that is potentially politically damaging and troublesome, I guess. Was this the right way for the federal government to respond?
No, it was tone deaf to begin with. I don't think a lot of people in Alberta were actually looking for this, as some of them have let the government know loud and clear. If anything, perhaps it was meant to play well in other parts of the country to show that the government was responding to Alberta. But this, as many people have said, this does not begin to address the issues. A lot of the money isn't even for the oil and gas sector. It's for getting out of the oil and gas sector, which just feeds the reality or the perception that the federal Liberals don't want the oil and gas sector to exist. So no, I don't think this either solves the problem in substantive terms, and it certainly don't think helps them politically.
It must help people, though, in the short term, though, Paul. I mean, Albertans who want something, there might be something to tap into there in terms of employment insurance or training money or something.
Yeah, but the bulk of it is for capital investments. It essentially will help industry get even more over the long term. It will help the oil industry get even more oil that it can't sell out of the ground. It's like you're at a restaurant and you really need to use the bathroom and your waiter says, let me bring you another dish. That's not the question. And that explains some of the frustration.
You can actually just go, though, and then the dish will be there when you get back. But okay, fine. Shachi, how do you think that response? I mean, they had to do something. They couldn't just sit there and say, you know, we're hoping to build a pipeline once we finish this thing. They had to take some sort of action. So how do you think it went over?
Well, it was a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, not suggesting that it was enough or that it's going to alleviate any of the frustration. The only thing that's going to alleviate the frustration is to build the damn pipeline. But that said, had this government not offered some relief, some bailout, regardless of what it looked like, you would have had Saskatchewan and Alberta saying, where's our bailout? Auto got one, manufacturing got one, softwood got one, where's ours? But, you know, all of it really speaks to a growing sense of disengagement and alienation in Western Canada. And I don't speak of it as a monolith, but particularly in Alberta and to an extent in Saskatchewan as well. Sometimes joined by BC, sometimes joined by Manitoba. It was largely papered over during the Harper years, but it's on full display now, and it is absolutely taking a toll on the fortunes of the Trudeau government. And, you know, for the first time, we're seeing Andrew Scheer in a situation where Canadians are looking at him as best prime minister material. They have to be worried about that going into next year.
I'm not sure that there really would be much demand or much call for bailouts. What everyone in Alberta has been saying is we want a pipeline of some kind. Now, the timing of this is particularly tone deaf, it seems to me, at the same time as Trudeau gave that interview where he said, well, we're not going to proceed with Energy East effectively because Quebec won't let us. Now, there may be good reasons not to proceed with Energy East. Maybe it's just fundamentally uneconomic. But to frame it as that, as we're not going to do it because there's no constituency for it in Quebec, when they were prepared to push things through in BC over a lot of opposition in BC. It just feeds this, again, reality or perception that they are much more focused on what happens in Quebec than they are in the West. When people start talking about why is there a tanker ban on the West Coast, but there's no tanker ban on the East Coast, these things resonate with people.
Okay, so let's dig into sort of what Chachi brought up there, and that is what seems to be divisions in the country over this issue, and some of them are being exacerbated probably on purpose. So I'll play this little montage of the Quebec, Alberta Premier and the Prime Minister, who was asked really directly about that this week in his year-end press conference. Here's what that sounded like.
Not only is our product not dirty, but that it actually funds the schools, the hospitals, the roads, and potentially even some of the hydroelectricity infrastructure in Quebec.
There's no social acceptability for oil in Quebec.
I can tell you, there are not many Canadians out there who wish ill on other Canadians, regardless of which part of the country they're from, whether it's Albertans or Quebecers or anyone in any part of the country.
I mean, that sounds very nice. I think that's probably true, but I don't know that it deals with the political reality of anything, Paul, and I'm not sure that it addresses the fact that you have a Quebec Premier making these inflammatory comments at a time when there is a crisis in Alberta, and they do feel sort of left behind. So what do you make of, I guess, how it's playing out between the provinces, but also the Prime Minister's response?
Yeah, I mean, if it's any consolation to people outside Quebec, just about everyone in Quebec was quick to tell François Legault that that was a dopey thing to say. That the social acceptability of oil in Quebec extends so far as everyone in Quebec drives around. The Quebec Pension Fund invests in the oil sands when that's a good investment. And I think François Legault will be a little more careful next time. But a lot in national unity stress is confirmation of perceptions and expectations. Look, Stephen Harper couldn't get a lot of pipelines built to Tidewater either, but Stephen Harper was an Albertan by adaptation and therefore almost more Catholic than the Pope on a lot of these things. He absolutely believed that the resource heartland of Canada is its economic powerhouse and should be. There's a hunch that Justin Trudeau, who lived in Montreal and lived in Vancouver, but forgot to spend much time in Alberta, whose principal secretary used to run the World Wildlife Federation and said some stuff about the oil sands that is not helpful to have on the record today, that he cares less about these things. And maybe that creates a situation where he's got to try harder, but he's not seen as trying harder. And when the sort of canary in the coal mine here is the Premier of Alberta, Rachel Notley, who got elected roughly at the same time as him, with roughly the same promises as him, and should be an objective ally, and is increasingly frustrated with this crew in Ottawa. That's a problem.
Well, the perception thing, I think, is a good point, Paul. But I mean, there is a reality to the oil and gas sector as well, and it might not be something that anyone wants to talk about now. But we will have to move towards something at some point. So, Chachi, how does a prime minister deal with that in a space where, as Paul points out, there is this tension between places, and he doesn't seem to be perceived as, I don't know, being on the right side or being on all sides if possible?
It's almost impossible to be on all sides. And to your point that there is definitely political calculus behind what François Legault is saying and behind what Rachel Notley is saying. First of all, Rachel Notley is facing an election in her own province next spring. She's in tight. She absolutely has to swing for the fences on behalf of her province, and her province would want her to do that. Albertans want her to do that. Whether she'll be thanked for her troubles is another story. For Legault, whether or not the analysts or the headline writers told him he was being a dope, he's at 59% approval in his province. This is protein on the plate for Quebecers, and they're eating it up. For Justin Trudeau, he's got to find a way to, again, this comes back to demonstrating that he can get big projects built and he can get this pipeline built. And it's not about an Alberta versus Quebec construct. This will have an impact on how people see him across the country. If he's seen as no good at dealing with the provinces or handling the premiers or being able to accomplish a major project, it's going to be problematic for him. And when you look at where population growth is in this country, it is happening in Western Canada. This is a much bigger vote base and a much more influential vote base than it was at the time of his father or in the 90s under the time of Chrétien. They can't just assume that they can write off the West and still win in 2019.
Well, that's sort of what it's about, though, Andrew, isn't it? It's not really even about the pipeline or not. I mean, it is, but it's also about how Trudeau manages the situation and whether there is problems with unity and how he deals with that.
Yeah, and whether you show respect, that's part of it in any question of politics, is do people feel like you understand their problems and respect them? To make this very difficult straddle that he's been attempting, being both for carbon pricing and for pipelines, people have to believe you mean both of them. And certainly on the pipeline energy side, I guess I'll put it this way, Stephen Harper was more convincing as an environmentalist than Justin Trudeau is as an oil and gas booster. People have come to the conclusion he just really doesn't fundamentally mean it. Where it really gets toxic for him is, however, is that I think increasingly people aren't sure whether he means it on the environmental side either, that we are so far short of our targets which they basically borrowed from the Harper government, and that people look at the carbon pricing initiative that they've done and they say, well, it's irritating, it's in your face, and it's still not actually going to achieve what it claims to set out. And so you wind up in a situation where nobody's really trusting you. And I think that's reflected in some of the numbers that he's posting these days.
Okay, so I only have about a minute left, but Paul, how damaging is that then, what Andrew's laid out there?
Well, I haven't heard a lot of people lauding the Prime Minister's credibility on big issues lately. I mean, when he comes out at one of these news conferences and sort of lays on the honeyed tones, I hear from more and more people, including people who are normally Liberal sympathizers, people across the country, the word I hear is platitudes. And it's a real bad thing when people hear you talking and you sound like the trombone in a Charlie Brown cartoon. Wah, wah, wah. That's not really an encouraging tone for a Prime Minister to take.
You're only saying that because I sent out a GIF about Charlie Brown's Christmas earlier today. Chachi, you get the last 30 seconds. What can he do then to signal that he is listening, that he is, that he's not doing the Charlie Brown voice, that he cares?
The only path forward for him, again, and to the extent that this is in his control, people would argue about that. Get the pipeline finished. It will take down the temperature on carbon pricing at the same time, and it will do a lot for his political fortunes going into this next election at a time where we're starting to see centrist Liberal voters drift to the Conservatives. Let's see if they can lock in and convert those voters, and drift to the don't know column. There's a lot of drift going on, a lot of dissipation of that vote. He's got to find a way to coalesce it and bring it back.
Okay, interesting conversation, everybody. Thank you, I appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue the podcast for extra content. You'll be able to hear all that again. That's super smart talk again. But we're also talking about, again, how Canada is handling its ongoing dispute with China, because that's the issue that won't die either. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
And up next on The National, as the UK struggles to leave the European Union, why some scientists say they have no choice but to leave the UK.
First, though, as we approach the end of the year, we are taking a closer look at some of the most powerful moments we've witnessed, taking you behind the lens to hear from the people who captured them. Tonight, it's an image from our reporting in Puerto Rico, 1 year after Hurricane Maria.
You know something is going to happen because you've been attentive to everything in front of you. And that's how I get the shots.
Shoes that has messages and writing.
We had one shoot in a building. They've collected over 1,000 shoes of people that died in the hurricane. And they collected them, they had a museum, but they wanted to establish a building that will be permanent, right? This house, they had boarded it up because it's not official yet, right? So there's no ventilation. Right? On a hot day, I couldn't see it through the viewfinder. There's so much sweat.
More of them has messages.
But you're rolling because he's not stopping. He doesn't feel this. This is his life on a daily basis. He's trying to show us what people went through.
Because I think we needed that.
Your job as a cameraman is like to reveal as much as you can and let the viewer decide. I want to bring that viewer deep inside there as much as I can. Right? I want him to feel the heat. I want him to feel the hunger, right? The sweat. You cannot get emotional. Stories like this, it just comes out. You gotta be there for the moment. You gotta catch it because you'll never get those moments again.
It's the
time of year when parents get time off from work and find a babysitter for the morning. 11 shopping days before Christmas. This week, News Magazine follows one couple on a present buying spree in a big Toronto store's Toyland. Not today, a family party with rides on the miniature Midway, but a secret expedition where only the Christmas savings go along. For the parents, months of savings go toward Christmas. For the store's toy department chief, months of careful planning. Now, as children of all ages gather and gaze at the piled-up counters, it's 0 hour for one of the biggest little industries in Canada, the toy industry. There's plenty of foreign competition. Trains all come from Germany, England, the States. The Canadian market isn't big enough to warrant home manufacture. Many metal toys are foreign, too. This idea comes from a firm in Nova Scotia. It's constructive, educational, and Canadian. It's cheap, too. A moment's consideration, and the decision's made. One problem solved, and a few more dollars added to the $50 million which Canadians spend every year on toys. But of that $50 million, over half is spent on imported toys. And this, in spite of the Canadian industry's ability to produce a good 90% of the country's needs. 1 worker in every 5 is out of a job. A situation which toy manufacturers uneasily compare with the Canadian textile industry's headaches. One of the headaches, American ability to mass-produce toys cheaply. Some manufacturers accuse their stateside rivals of dumping in Canada. There's an inflexible rule for sales in every industry. Best value for least money sells most. Canadian dolls compare favorably with imported dolls. They walk, talk, sleep, even cry. Their clothes come on and off. Are well made and pretty. Their hair can be brushed and rearranged. They're a delight for any little girl to have and to hold. But it's a fight to keep their price down to the level where the customer will say, I'll take this one. Shopping's all done. Time to leave the store. Time to look behind the scenes at a varied scene, typical of many Canadian industries, for enterprise, ingenuity, and struggle against difficult odds. This firm turns out close to $500,000 a year. It's unique practically the world over because it makes every one of the dozens of components assembled by expert fingers. Employees, mostly women, many of them immigrants, work here. The firm operates on a profit-sharing basis. Employees benefit in time of prosperity, even down to the bench hands, who give stylish hairdos to hundreds of dolls better than natural hair.
I'm a detective, like you.
Murdoch helps recover.
The treasure of Pompeii. I saw a man carting a crate away.
Find out what ships have departed in the past few hours.
Murdoch Mysteries returns Monday, January 7th on CBC.
I cannot believe this is the end. Oh no.
A European boy band is singing from the heart, asking Britain to reconsider its EU breakup.
Had a rocky start, ups and downs, but you didn't have a fair choice. You were misinformed.
The woman behind the group says a boy band is a, quote, nuclear weapon against propaganda. But do the Brunian boys really have the right moves?
It hasn't been easy to, make you feel unique.
Prison, you're great, but together we're greater. Prison, come back to us. Can we make you change your mind?
But sentiment doesn't mean much in the face of hard facts. In just over 3 months, Britain is set to leave the EU, and putting music aside, some worry it means stepping back from the world of global science. The CBC's Thomas Dagla met some of the researchers jumping ship.
Okay, I'd be really interested to see the results from that.
This is the kind of work that saves lives. Advanced cancer research.
So you're working with line 1?
Supervised by Emma Bell, but only for now.
A bit black box.
She's taking her PhD and her expertise to Toronto because of Brexit.
I'm really upset to be moving, but I think it's necessary. It definitely is a nightmare. The problem is the uncertainty. Like, that's the worst bit. If we knew what we could expect, we could plan for it.
For instance, she worries about DNA samples destined for analysis in Germany. They need to be delivered across borders pronto.
We know that there's going to be a lot of delay, a lot of fuss. We don't know how long that's going to last.
Whether at Imperial College London or elsewhere, there's concern UK innovation will be crippled. The first ever text message was sent here. British technology helped the Philae lander reach a comet. And who can forget Dolly, the Scottish sheep, the world's first to be cloned?
What's important for science, is really important for the country.
Nobel laureate Venki Ramakrishnan and 34 other esteemed scientists co-signed a letter to the British Prime Minister underlining the importance of British-EU cooperation. Creating new barriers, they wrote, will inhibit progress to the detriment of us all.
The risk is that we will not be perceived as a go-to place for science.
Most EU nationals at this sprawling research center say they're less likely to stay after Brexit. Among them, Yasmin Soren from Germany, whose job in London is funded by the EU.
I took it quite personal at the time, this vote against the EU, because I am an EU citizen and I'm here because of the EU, and so many of my friends are.
At Imperial College, Emma Bell is rushing to finish a research paper in a month. After that, it's off to Toronto's Princess Margaret Cancer Centre. A big gain for Canada, sure, but it signals even bigger trouble for Britain. Thomas Dagla, CBC News, London.
And our moment of the day is just ahead, and what a moment it was. A remote First Nation moving away from diesel generators and for the first time getting clean, reliable electricity.
We're here to celebrate with the people. It's just so going to be so wonderful. It's a historic moment for our people. It's a reassurance for other First Nations that we are going to build this line up north.
In case you missed it, if you've ever dreamt of combining the speed of alpine skiing, the rhythm of cross-country, the classic Canadian smell of snowmobile exhaust, all to become a kind of human skidoo, well, too late. Somebody's beaten you to it. This is the Ski Z Woods Runner, created by Jim Maidment, who first had the idea years ago in Happy Valley Goose Bay, Labrador.
If there was only a way to have motorized skis, it would be as good as anti-gravity to me. So I started with an electric motor and a few batteries and a couple of BMX wheels with chains on them. It inspired, it worked, I could use it, it just wasn't enough.
So he tinkered with it, honed it, and nearly a dozen versions later, with its 4-stroke gasoline engine, it can shoot you up the slope as easily as a chairlift, but way more fun. And on flat terrain, it can hit 40 kilometers an hour. Now, it's not in stores, but Jim's taking pre-orders online. The price tag, just under $5,000.
And so it was for Bill Malden and Bruce Bairnsfather. By accident, their private view of war became familiar to millions, but remained no less private. Bruce Bairnsfather was a man of elastic temperament. No amount of fatigue, hardship, peril, or pain could quench his vital spirit or reduce his exuberant sense of humor. Before 1914, he'd been many things, now a regular soldier, now an engineer. He had no thought of sketching except for mischief on walls, shirt cuffs, or tablecloths. Without the war, he might never have put pencil to paper for publication, but the war insisted. Today, at 70, he lives in Worcester, England, still drawing, but less and less for publication, and little aware of how well remembered he still is. Charles Templeton met him for close-up.
This is your most famous drawing, the better old, isn't it, Captain Bruce?
I suppose it is. Everybody seemed to take to this one more than any other.
How did it come to be drawn?
Well,
did you see some incident like this?
Yes, I happened to be in a battle and was trying to get out of it, to be perfectly candid, and I was running about this field, and as I did so, I saw a whole crowd of fellows stuck in a shell hole together, not only two, but several of them, and it all struck me as very pathetic to see anybody in such a predicament. Nobody knew whether the war was over there or over here, and I thought this thing over for some time and nursed the idea in my mind until suddenly, I don't know how, the idea shot into me that it should be two people arguing in a shell hole. And here you have them, you see. Here's this young chap who hasn't been very schooled up in wars and so on. He doesn't particularly like it. And here's old Bill, the old-timer, has been listening to him for some time, suggesting that there might be a better place to go to. And finally, old Bill, exasperated, says, well, if you knows of a better hole, go to it. And that's how the whole thing came about.
Why do you think this particular drawing of the hundreds you did had such an enormous and widespread appeal?
I think it's because of the predicament myself, the human note in the thing. I mean, so often in existence, quite apart from a war, you find yourself in a pickle like this and you really don't know quite what's the best thing to do. And I think it's really, the picture is almost divorced from warfare in that way, because I've had, even today, I have people writing to me and asking me to draw this picture. In the last week, I've done it 3 times.
Did you know an old Bill?
No, I didn't know an old Bill, but I had considerable trouble about that with a woman who kept on writing to me, claiming that I was making money out of her husband's face, and that had to be stopped.
Is he still around?
Oh, yes, you can easily see old Bills about the place. Even today, I mean, you might think they'd worn out, but if you went through the English villages and so on, you'll see the old Bill type exactly.
I'm a detective, like you.
Murdoch helps recover.
The treasure of Pompeii. I saw a man carting a crate away.
Find out what ships have departed in the past few hours.
Murdoch Mysteries returns Monday, January 7th on CBC.
Today marked a powerful turning point for a remote community in northwestern Ontario. For years, Pikangikum First Nation got its power from diesel generators, but they can break down, not to mention they're noisy and smelly. So today, a really important first. They've been connected to the provincial power grid. It means the 2,500 or so people who live there will have access to clean, reliable electricity. And the moment they flip the switch, just as night was falling, is our moment of the day.
All right, shut her down, boys, shut her down. Generator is down for good. It is now officially powered by the provincial grid. Our diesel generator is now shut down, and hopefully we'll never have to go back or resort to using old diesel generators.
And then the moment of truth.
Here we go.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, everybody.
And Ian, I'll just add to that, what is a pretty beautiful moment, that the tree lighting is more than just symbolic. I mean, it is a luxury that community has not been able to afford, because when you rely on diesel for power, in a place, by the way, that has no road access, electricity is very much a finite, precious resource, and I suppose one that they can afford to spend a little more of.
Yeah, but still, I mean, lots of symbolism there. The lighting of the Christmas tree, such an important milestone for that community. And as we know, more than just the Christmas tree, they have, 400 homes that they need to have built there, a severe housing shortage, and because of the lack of enough electricity, they haven't been able to build them until now. Kind of makes me feel badly about all the things on my Christmas list when there are communities that are still just hoping for clean, reliable electricity.
Fair enough.
That is The National for December the 20th. Good night.
Good night.